Bonsai trees are so popular because of how beautiful and unique they look. They're small, compact versions of full-size trees that can be enjoyed from the comfort of one's home. But have you ever wondered why they stay so small? In this video, we will explore the reasons behind the small size of bonsai trees. Before we get into the main point, it's important to know that there are over 100 different species of bonsai, and each species has its own growth habit and needs. So not all bonsai trees stay small for the same reasons or at the same rate. But generally speaking, there are two main factors that contribute to the small size of bonsai trees. The first is the pot size, and the second is the training techniques used by bonsai artists. The first factor, pot size, is probably the most obvious one. Bonsai trees are grown in small pots, which restricts their root system and prevents them from growing too large. When a tree is grown in a large pot, it has plenty of room to spread out its roots and grow big. But when it's grown in a small pot, its root system is constricted and it can't grow as large. This is because the roots need space to grow and develop, and if they don't have enough space, the tree won't be able to grow as big as it would otherwise. The smaller the pot, the smaller the root system can become, and therefore the smaller the tree can grow. It is important to note that the size of the pot is just one of many factors that influences the size of a bonsai tree. Other factors such as genetics and training techniques also play a role. However, in general, the smaller the pot, the smaller the tree. In order to keep a bonsai tree small, it needs to be repotted into a smaller pot every few years. This is because the tree will eventually outgrow its pot and its root system will start to become overcrowded. When this happens, the tree will start to slow down its growth and may even start to decline. To prevent this, bonsai artists will repot the tree into a smaller pot, which will help to stimulate new growth and keep the tree healthy. Now let's talk about the second factor that keeps bonsai trees small, training techniques. Bonsai artists use a variety of techniques to train their trees to stay small, such as root pruning, branch pruning, and defoliation. Root pruning is the process of removing some of the roots from the tree's root ball. This can be done with pruning shears or by simply digging into the soil with your hands. By removing some of the roots, you're essentially reducing the amount of energy the tree has available to grow. This can be especially helpful for trees that have a tendency to grow too large. Branch pruning is another technique used by bonsai artists to keep their trees small. By pruning the branches, you're reducing the amount of foliage the tree has, which in turn reduces the amount of energy it needs to grow. This can be done at any time of year, but it's most effective when the tree is dormant. Defoliation is a more extreme technique that involves completely removing all of the leaves from the tree. This can be done by hand or with a special tool called a defoliator. Defoliation is most commonly used on coniferous trees such as pines and spruces. By removing all of the leaves, you're essentially resetting the tree's growth cycle and forcing it to start over from scratch. This can be an effective way to keep a tree small, but it's important to do it correctly as it can damage the tree if done incorrectly. Another technique used to keep bonsai trees small is wiring. By wrapping wire around the branches of a tree, you can train them to grow in a certain direction. This can be helpful for trees that have a tendency to grow outwards or upwards. Wiring can also be used to create interesting shapes and designs in bonsai trees. Besides these basic methods, bonsai artists also use other advanced techniques to keep their trees small, such as air layering and grafting. Air layering is a technique used to propagate plants while they're still attached to their parent plant. This can be done by making a cut in the bark of the parent plant and then covering it with a rooting hormone. The cut will eventually callus over and the plant will start to grow from the new wound. Grafting is another technique used by bonsai artists to manipulate the size and shape of their trees. This is done by joining two or more pieces of plant tissue together in such a way that they grow together as one. By using these techniques, Bonsai artists can create unique and interesting trees that would not be possible to create using traditional methods. Now, let's take a look at why keeping the pot size small and using training techniques are important for bonsai trees. For one, it allows us to enjoy the beauty of nature in a more intimate way. Bonsai trees are often seen as works of art, and their small size allows us to appreciate their beauty up close. Additionally, bonsai trees can add a touch of tranquility and peace to our lives. The practice of bonsai gardening can be very therapeutic, and the presence of a bonsai tree in our homes or gardens can be very calming. Furthermore, bonsai trees can be a great conversation starter and can add a unique and interesting element to our homes or gardens. They can also serve as a reminder of the beauty of nature and the importance of preserving it. Finally, bonsai trees can be a fun and rewarding hobby to pursue. The process of caring for and training a bonsai tree can be very satisfying, and the end result can be truly beautiful. Now let's take a look at the potential downsides of keeping bonsai trees small. One potential downside of keeping bonsai trees small is that it can be a lot of work. Bonsai trees require regular pruning and shaping in order to keep them small and healthy. This can be time-consuming and require a lot of dedication, especially if you want to keep your bonsai tree looking its best. Another potential downside is that bonsai trees can be expensive. Bonsai trees can be quite costly, especially if you want to buy a mature tree. Additionally, the tools and materials needed to care for a bonsai tree can also be expensive. Furthermore, bonsai trees can be delicate and require a lot of care. They can be susceptible to pests and diseases, and if they're not cared for properly, they can die. This can be frustrating and disheartening, especially if you've invested a lot of time and money into your bonsai tree. Finally, bonsai trees may not be suitable for everyone. They can be challenging to care for and may not fit in with your lifestyle. If you've decided to keep your bonsai tree small, there are a few things you can do to ensure that it stays healthy and looks its best. Firstly, make sure to repot your bonsai tree into a smaller pot every few years. This will help to keep its root system healthy and prevent it from becoming too large. Secondly, prune your bonsai tree regularly. This will help to shape it into the desired form and keep it looking its best. Thirdly, fertilize your bonsai tree regularly. This will help to keep it healthy and encourage new growth. Finally, make sure to protect your bonsai tree from pests and diseases. This can be done by spraying it with a suitable insecticide or fungicide if necessary. By following these tips, you can help to ensure that your bonsai tree stays small, healthy, and beautiful for years to come. In conclusion, bonsai trees stay small for two main reasons. The first is that they're grown in small pots, which restricts their root system and prevents them from growing too large. And the second reason is that bonsai artists use various techniques, such as root pruning, branch pruning, and wiring to train their trees to stay small. Keeping bonsai trees small allows us to enjoy the beauty of nature in a more intimate way, add a touch of tranquility and peace to our lives, and can be a fun and rewarding hobby. However, there are also potential downsides to consider, such as the fact that it can be a lot of work, expensive, and require a lot of care. But if you're willing to put in the effort, the results can be truly beautiful. So if you love the look of bonsai trees and are willing to put in the work, then it may be worth considering growing one yourself. You can start by choosing a tree to grow, acquiring the necessary tools and materials, and then learning how to prune and shape your bonsai tree into the desired form. With patience and practice, you can create a beautiful bonsai tree that will be a source of pride and joy for years to come.